This is a BZB Pro Smart Scanner Quad test on a fox animal downloaded from the internet. It's relatively good polygon and on a layer. I'll see I'll template it. I actually have a shelf that I made for the BZB Pro products. I'll launch the software. Here is the software for the quadruped. Create the scale node, execute the sketch skeleton. As you can see, it's pointing in the opposite direction. What you have to do is actually orient your model to fit with the skeleton. And then what you want to do is actually come through, and I'll move this, actually take your root. So the root of your animal is actually on the root of the rig. And once that's done, just freeze it out, freeze transformations, and then just kind of lock it out. And then once you have that done, you can begin to set up the rigging. So come through, and this is probably about 0.3, maybe about 0.25 on the scale node of what the actual thing is, and they just kind of come through and begin to move these in the proper location. So I'm just kind of moving these on through. And then I will scale these down. This whole process would take, on a rig this complex that you'll see that's generated, could take up to 110 hours. We're going to get it done in 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll slide this up just so we can see, and then kind of move this up like this. Move this over, rotate this down, scale this up. You want to scale these joints into the proper location, and you don't want to do an extreme rotation back. That'll screw up your auto rig. So you don't want to do a rotation like this or anything. It'll screw up your rig scene. Just kind of scale this in through, just so it's kind of roughed in. Come through on the spine. You want the spine close to the top, and then you kind of want these to be scaled through so in the proper spot. Take this guy, actually kind of rough this on up. About where do you think the clavicle would be? Rotate this down. Rotate this down this way. And you might want to look at a human anatomy, animal anatomy book before you get too far intense with what this needs to be, just so you have a better idea what is going on. We use a lot of reference. When I was at Lucasfilm and at EA, we used tons of reference, and at 2K, on whether it be on athletes or on animals. I was doing a lot of research on biomechanics, on slugs, and on bipeds and quadrupeds, for things like Jabba the Hutt. I was working on that at Lucas. Okay. And then when you have that done to a certain point that you're satisfied with, you want to kind of come through on the top view and then kind of move these in the proper location. And that's about right. Go back to your GUI. Hit 3A, that'll mirror it. Hit 4, finalizes the skeleton. Drop down B. Hit 5. It creates the leaf joints. You kind of come through and move these guys around to wherever you want them if necessary. Mirror them over. This button 6 finalizes them. We're going to delete them anyway. It doesn't matter. We'll delete hamstrings. Pink buttons delete the excess joints you don't want. Triceps, biceps, pecs, lats, all the way down the mobile if you don't want to, but we'll leave it the way it is. When you have that done, you pick either what kind of animal it is, whether it's a canine with exposed canine cat with exposed legs, or a horse deer type animal with the upper arm and the torso. It's actually a canine cat character film, so we'll pick that knob, hit the button to reference in the scene that's installed on the machine. And you can see it's kind of blocked in, kind of sketched out. We'll scale this down a little bit, just get a little bit of a tighter fit. Maybe scale down a little bit more. Kind of see what this this guy's actually doing. And then you want to come through and actually take these yellow handles and then just kind of scale them up, put them in the proper spot they need to be in. And we'll kind of go back and forth with this just to kind of get this the proper location. And this is a little bit of give and take. You know, you need to kind of come through and kind of figure out what it is this animal needs to do. And you know, they have the meat of the torso there. You want to come through and maybe grab these individual control handles. And what you're trying to do is actually take your character mesh and fit it inside this proxy cage. So take this mesh here and actually scale this up, translate this up a little bit, scale this up, then some through here you want to kind of maybe do the same thing, grab the yellow handles, and this is flying through what is basically a proxy cage on a mesh. And you got some curvature here, which is pretty nice. So and maybe coming through on these handles and select these handles. And maybe scale these up a little bit as well. Just so there's a little bit of a skin cluster in there. A fattened tail. But it'll pretty much transfer it over okay. And when you have them kind of roughed out and he's kind of, you know, in a proxy cage like this. Go back to your GUI and then hit 8B. Oops. Oh, that's why. My bad. You actually have to. I made a mistake. Select your mesh. I didn't bind it yet. Select your mesh. Select it, and then actually select the number of influences, and then do a bind. There. My bad. And then once that's done, I skipped a step. Then hit hit 8B. Does the transfer of the weights, and then just kind of come through and just kind of test it out a little bit. Yeah, that's good. It's all moving around, looks great. Skinning's pretty much done, 95% done. Might be a little bit of cleanup here and there, maybe on the back legs a little bit. And then I'll kind of come through, and then once that's done and the skinning's pretty much transferred over, might be a little bit of cleanup on the hind legs, a little bit here and there. I can just hit 8C on references to scene, so I have a clean scene with clean skinning. You can see it's moving around as well. I'll come through and actually go to my skinning tools in Maya and just clean this up a little bit. So this requires the 5 minutes of skinning cleanup. So when I come through and actually go to you want to kind of just go through and maybe make it like a 0.2 and just kind of add a little bit in there. Just kind of strengthen it up a little bit. There's no way to predict everything. This just goes in with the cleanup. And then with the right ankle, do the same thing. For the most part, if this is all you have to do on a mesh, that's pretty phenomenal. And then grab the leg here, and then actually come through and just a little bit of cleanup in here. Just a little bit. Shading, wireframe unshaded. Just enough to give you a little bit more of a look. So I'll just come through and value 0.2, just kind of rough this in a little bit. And then just kind of smooth this out. and that's just for a bulky leg. So this is a little bit problematic, but it's been about 5 minutes cleaning this up. I mean, the rest of the animal looks pretty tight. On the rear legs, you're gonna have a little bit of difficulty on cleanup. So, oops, wrong leg. Kind of clean that up a little bit. Just kind of hammer that down. There you go. So that kind of gets it into the proper, a little bit of a better deformation. So when I come through and actually make it a wireframe, clean up a little bit more. There you go. And it's a little bit back and forth. On a hind leg like this, I'm showing this because it's a problematic feature. But on a hind leg like this, you're going to have difficulty on certain portions of the skinning. And just kind of smooth that on down. And the hind leg's probably all it's going to have to be tweaked. So this still needs a little bit of work on the back leg, and of course you would want, what you want to do is you want to get it clean enough so you're actually making a corrective sculpt. So you just want to clean enough mesh in here so you actually have a corrective sculpt. And this little guy was sticking out. There we go. That's a little better. And after about, a little bit of going back and forth with this, will have deformation that you can actually work with. So again, a little bit of a range of motions, that looks fine. Range of motion is about to put right there. So in any cleanup that you want to do, as long as you have a clean mesh, you can actually put corrective sculpts on top of it. And you can see here with the lower leg and everything, it's all deformed properly. So on the upper leg around this groin area, you might want to actually spend a little bit more time tweaking just a bit. But nothing that shouldn't take you more than 5-10 minutes to do. And you can see you're getting clean deformation. And if you want to actually clean up more than that, you probably can. And with that said, a little bit of finessing based on what you want your animal to do. Go back and actually zero out the rotation, and then kind of come through and basically, rotate up, rotate down. You can see it's actually moving pretty good. Take this guy and actually move him back. It's actually getting a pretty good deformation. And they really don't have an extreme pose anyway, so it's kind of, that looks pretty good. It's moving at a pretty good rate. And joint below it. So basically, with 5 minutes of cleanup, 5-10 minutes of cleanup, it cleaned up the whole thing. When you have that done, go to the drop down D, hit button 9, generates the entire control rig. So the entire control rig's done. Hit the button below it, generates cartoony. Button below that, generates facial GUI. So you can kind of see here that the whole thing is rigged up. He's ready to rock and roll. And he is in the proper mode ready to be animated. So what would have taken about, I use this character as an example because he's needed a little bit of cleanup around the rear hip area. What would have taken approximately 110 hours to do, a couple weeks to do, we were able to get done in 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes. So this concludes this video. You can see the amount of cleanup that was done. We try to get you about 90% there with a little bit of cleanup on the end on your part because we can't predict every shape. And then you can go from there and begin animating. All right, thank you for your time. BZB Pro.